If you imagine the natural beauty of Georgia located in the heart of the Caucasus Mountains, it would probably look like this: magnificent peaks, snowy mountains, steep slopes, and inaccessible ridges, creating a feeling of endless freedom. This is the Georgian Military Road. In this country of hospitable people and delicious food, the road represents the spirit of Caucasus nature, its rich history and culture. I recently visited Georgia, a country with a long history and once a part of the Soviet Union. I took a drive along the famous Georgian Military Road to the heart of the mountains, the village of Gergeti near the town Stepantsminda, which is located at the foot of Mount Kazbek, about 11 kilometers from the Russian border. Along the way I saw the confluence of two rivers in the ancient capital of Georgia, Mtskheta. Look at the Soviet images on the French monument, and climb up to the Trinity Monastery, which is located in the altitude of 2,170 meters. Let's climb those mountains, look at the town in clouds, and explore the mysterious path of the road with me. The Georgian Military Road is a 208-kilometer long highway that connects the Russian city of Vladikavkaz with the Georgian capital Tbilisi. This is the only direct road from Russia to Georgia and Armenia. It's considered one of the most picturesque roads in the Caucasus. There is everything here: unique churches and ancient fortresses, emerald meadows and mountains with snowy peaks, hot springs, alpine lakes and waterfalls. It's believed that the Georgian Military Road dates back to the ancient times. Its construction began in 1783 after the Treaty of St. George was signed, which was a treaty transferring Georgia under Russian protection and establishing Vladikavkaz as a Russian city in the Caucasus region. Instead of the former mountain trails, the pass along which took about a month, a road was built in 14 years. And in 1992, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, the border between Russia and Georgia appeared here. So where did its name come from? Well, at first it was called the Alexandrov Way, but after a military operation started in 1903, it became the Georgian Military because the military maintained the road, and it's still known as that today. The road was built for military use and the old name just remained. I wanted not only to drive along the Georgian Military Road, but also to climb up to the Trinity Church at the top near the Gergeti village next to Stepantsminda town. The village is located at an altitude of 744 meters at the foot of Mount Kazbek. Weather can be really harsh here. Even in late May, there is snow in the mountains, and it often rains with clouds passing through the town. Gergeti is easily accessible from Tbilisi, the capital of Georgia. It takes about 4 hours by car or marshutka, a type of public transportation similar to a road taxi in post-Soviet countries. The marshutka is cheap, but it's also more for moving, not traveling. You'll be bouncing about 4 hours on the serpentine roads, watching from a foggy window as other tourists who came by car go down to Zhinvali Reservoir, climb up to the Ananuri Fortress, and take photos of the scenic mountains views. If you want to stop and see more, it's better to take your own car, taxi or guided tour. The roads, viewpoints, churches and mountains themselves are the main attractions. In May, the mountain peaks are still covered with snow and you will definitely need warm clothes. In Gergeti, it will be useful even in summer. This time of year, the roads are already clear of snow, but you need to be aware of Georgian driving style. In Georgia and the Caucasus in general, people drive aggressively, with sudden brakes and accelerations, often overtaking other cars. There are animals on the highways too: sheep, dogs, cows, sometimes just lying down. The first stop on our way is the first capital of Georgia, Mtskheta, with its nearby Jvari Monastery, 15 kilometers from Tbilisi. The main cathedrals of Georgia are located in the center of the city. On the other bank there is the famous Jvari temple on a hill. It's a sacred place for Georgians and one of the symbols of the country. The word Jvari is translated from Georgia as a cross. It's believed that Saint Nino installed the cross there and brought Christianity to Georgia. The main purpose of visiting Jvari is the amazing views of the surrounding mountains and the meeting point of the Kura and Aragvi rivers. The Kura on the left and in the center is the largest river in Caucasus. It flows through Tbilisi, but it's really dirty because of all the industrial waste. Aragvi on the right is a mountain river. It joins with other rivers high up along the Georgian Military Road. There is Zhinvali Reservoir and a hydroelectric power station that supply the Georgian capital with water and electricity. You can see the road back to Tbilisi from the coursing mountain. And there is another road that goes the other way, towards the border with Russia. That's where we're going. In Mtskheta, one of the most fascinating places is the Svetitskhoveli Cathedral, which has served as the spiritual heart of Christian Georgia for many centuries. It was built in the 11th century and has been a major Orthodox shrine in Georgia for over 1,000 years. Its name means life-giving pillar in Georgian. The cathedral is surrounded on all sides by a wall built in almost even square, forming an inner courtyard, which is pleasant to walk around and find secluded places. Georgia was the most religious Christian country I've ever been to, and religion was shown in little things, not just in services or how many offerings there were. Even on public transport, when you go past the church, lots of Georgians make a sign of cross. Faith is deep in the blood here. If you can see Svetitskhoveli Church from Jvari, you can see Jvari from Svetitskhoveli. There are no special attractions in the city anymore, but it's worth strolling around the streets shaded by grapevines to feel the relaxed atmosphere. Life goes on here despite all the tourists. The next stop on our journey was the Zhinvali Reservoir, with its beautiful azure water that supplies Tbilisi with fresh drinking water. To build the reservoir, they had to move some villages and temples, and now they are underwater. Locals tell me that in summer, when the water recedes, you can still see the tops of some of the buildings sticking out. The water in this reservoir has an unusual and magical color, turquoise. The reservoir is loved by the local population as a place of rest and relaxation. The Ananuri Fortress is located near the Zhinvali Reservoir. It was an important defensive structure back in days, protecting the people of Caucasus and connecting the north and south of the Caucasus region. The fortress is in excellent condition both outside and inside. You can even climb to the top of one of the towers, examine the decoration of several small temples on the territory, and take a couple of photos against the background of the mountains and the Zhinvali Reservoir. Farther up to the mountains, not far from Jvari ski resort, the Friendship Monument is located. It's clearly visible from the road and impossible to pass. The arch in honor of friendship between Russia and Georgia is located in an altitude of 2,384 meters and is made from concrete and stone. It's a huge semicircular structure that overlooks the beautiful Caucasus Mountains. The arch was built in 1983 to celebrate the 200th anniversary of the St. George Treaty and the ongoing friendship between Soviet Georgia and Soviet Russia. The arch is huge and bright, decorated with colorful mosaics. There is a huge mosaic fresco painted by Georgian artists covering the entire inside of the monument. It shows scenes from Russia and Georgian history, and a quote by the legendary Georgian poet Skobelev. A loyal friend will help a friend, he is not afraid of trouble, he will give his heart for his heart, and love is a star on the way. The words are printed in Russian and Georgian. Unfortunately, the friendship between countries is a bit shaky right now, so the arch is in a bad shape too. But from here you can see a magnificent view of the valley, mountains and an artificial lake. Locals sell various souvenirs here and offer photos with parrots. On the way to our final destination, we stop at a little village called Snow. There is an old fortress with a watchtower on the left side on the road as you enter the village. The history of the village and its tower has been completely lost. What I've heard is that the tower could have been used as a watching and defense tower in the past, but now it looks more a residential one. Finally, we arrived at the final point of our road, the village of Stepantsminda. The high-up urban-style town is located at an altitude of 1,744 meters above sea level at the foot of Mount Kazbek. Sometimes you can't even see the top because of all clouds in the mountains. In Georgian, Stepantsminda means Saint Stefan. A monk named Stefan used to live in the mountains near here. He once warned the villagers about an avalanche, and they were able to escape thanks to him. Later, after they moved to safety, they named the new town after their hero. The place is truly amazing. The stunning beauty of the views of the nature that opens up in the mountains is not just breathtaking, they make you rethink your entire existence. Tourists come here to look at the beautiful church against the background of the majestic Kazbek. Before, when there was no road, people would walk to the church, but then they built an asphalt road, so now it's much easier and quicker to get there. The Gergeti Church is famous for the fact that during difficult times, like when enemies invaded, some church relics were hidden there, specifically the cross of Saint Nina, who spread Christianity in Georgia. Back in the 20th century, when the Soviet government was anti-religious, they closed the church, but by the end of the century they were able to reopen it. Now there is an active monastery on the property. The Church of the Holy Trinity in the village of Gergeti is one of the most scenic in the country. It's located at an altitude of about 2,170 meters, and if you're lucky you might be able to see Kazbek from the top on a clear day. The complex included a church and a bell tower. Inside it's ascetic and strict, like the mountain people who guard it. There aren't any frescoes or decoration, just a few old images. Most of walls are even unplastered. With narrow windows and no electricity, it's dark inside. Due to the incredible landscapes that surrounded the temple, many tourists prefer to hike up to the church on their own from the village of Gergeti. At the same time, you will not need special hiking equipment, just comfortable clothes and suitable shoes will be enough. It took me about an hour to climb the mountain. Sometimes when climbing, the slope was so steep that I almost crawled. Along the way I met a mountain shepherd and his cows and sheep. It's not unusual in Georgia because most people there are involved in farming. The weather was cloudy and I climbed through clouds as I approached the monastery. But the view was definitely worth it, and the fresh mountain air and the feeling of the conquering the peak were priceless. When you climb to the monastery, you follow in the footsteps of pilgrims and monks who have been walking the path for decades, trying to get closer to God. And when you return to Stepantsminda, you feel like a different person, more at peace with yourself and in harmony with nature. The descent took as long as the climb, 1 hour. Then, impressed by the nature scenery, we headed back to Tbilisi, the capital of Georgia, slowly leaving the cool mountains behind and meeting a warm evening in May. That was my journey along the Georgian Military Road, an amazing journey to explore the Caucasus mountains and untouched nature. After this trip, I began to better understand Georgians and their way of life based on faith, openness, pride to their country and freedom, like the wind in the snowy peaks of the mountains.